Hi, I'm Garm1, and this is Midgardia's cool crowdfunding show. I'm here today with Chris Longhurst. How's it going?
It's very hot here in the UK. Well, it's hot for the UK. How
So,
you
like,
doing?
15 degrees Celsius?
I like 30.
Oh, jeez. I'm doing pretty well. For once, it is not super hot over here in Alberta. And I'm very happy about that, because good lord. Um, you're here today to tell us a bit about C Issue X. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
See, Issue X is a game about superheroes and about kind of how their backstories accumulate cruft over time. And as you tell more stories of the particular character, you need to accommodate the extra stuff that got introduced earlier on. And it uses a little deck of cards made from a bigger deck of cards, and you write on the cards when their character shows up, like Doctor Nefario or something. That's an actual character, isn't it? From that thing with the minions. Anyway, bad guy shows up, you write him on a card, and then whenever you draw that card in future, he shows up again. And to start with, this is like, oh, you're establishing a bit of a rogues gallery, you're establishing some common themes and places and stuff about your powers and super stuff in general. And then by around the arc 4 or 5, you start getting these hands full of cards, and the way the game has questions, and it's like, how did this thing help you overcome the villain? And you'll have a choice of which cards you can use out of a certain number, and you'll draw a hand of cards, and it will just be nonsense. And that's when you need to start working out how you can take your backstory and stay true to it while still telling new and original stories. And that's kind of where it starts getting properly in. That's where you get to start being Grant Morrison, basically. Um, and yeah, it's a pretty straightforward game. It's designed for playing solo. It was originally just going to be a solo game, and then as I was making it, I realized you can play it multiplayer as well with a little bit of tweaking. And you can do that thing that comics do, where you've got like a sort of a team up title and a solo title, and maybe a different team up title. And they'll all draw on elements of all the characters that are in them, but each one will also develop on its own arc. So if you want to, you can hang out with your mates and make like an extended universe of these characters and put them together in whatever combinations you feel like.
And if you have a lot of groups of friends, you run into that thing from, like, when the new 52 launched and Batman was in, like, 30 books every month.
Yeah,
Up to and including at one point just like piloting somebody's spaceship for no apparent reason. She's like, "Oh hey, Batman's here." "Yeah, I'm here. Let's fly." Like, okay, hi.
yeah. I mean that that kind of nonsense is what I like about comics. I think. Like I like slightly more serious stuff as well. I'm a big fan of Astro City. I say stuff like I'm a big fan. I like Astro City. If you ask me to like delve deep into the lore of Astro City, I wouldn't be able to, but I enjoy it a lot. Um, but yeah, I think with sort of normal Cape comics, the thing I like most is just the absurdity of it, especially when the characters are just slightly goofy about it as well.
Yeah,
I try to think of examples, but I haven't read any recently. But it's every time I think about it, I think like Gorilla Grodd is a psychic gorilla. That's his thing. Like somebody invented that, and now he started off fighting. His enemy was a man who runs really fast for no earthly reason, and now he fights everybody. And I think that's I just find that very interesting. I very much like remixes and remakes and sort of reinterpretations of things, and taking elements from one person's story and dropping them into somebody else's is very interesting to me.
you ever read Starman? uh
I have the first 2 volumes of the omnibus on my shelf just over there.
Nice.
Um, I would love to finish the collection, but they go for about 300 quid a go.
Wow.
Um, so that's going to have to wait.
I have the entire omnibus collection somewhere in the boxes behind me. uh when I liquidated my comic collection, that was one of the few things that was like, I need this. Because, like, no,
Yeah,
it's exactly this. Like, he meets Superman 3 separate times throughout the run, and it's never really the same dude. Like the first time is when he's split into red and blue Superman. The second time is when he's electric Superman, and the third time is just Superman. But like, it's weird.
Yeah, yeah, and I like I said, that's what I like about comics. I love that. I also like inheriting mantles and the way like different people represent different superheroes and things like that. It's that capacity for mixing and matching pieces while still remaining recognizably what it is that just really keeps me coming back to them.
Right, absolutely. Like, yeah, no, even when another character takes over, it's still like kind of the same, but kind of different. Like the various Green Lanterns.
Yeah, I'm thinking just off the top of my head, wasn't there a bit when Daredevil had to pretend he wasn't Daredevil for a while, so he got Iron Fist to sort of sub in for him?
That sounds right. That
That rings a bell. Or yeah, I think that was it.
yeah, like that kind of stuff happens reasonably often. Like Superman
Yeah,
pretending to be Bruce Wayne for a little bit and stuff
yeah.
like that.
Or Superior Spider-Man. I don't understand exactly why that worked out the way it did, but you have Doctor Octopus pretending to be Spider-Man for a while.
Yeah, he was like in Peter's body, I think, or something. I don't
That
know.
rings a bell. It was very odd, but it was also very good.
Yeah, like peak comic book, like I mean, no, peak comic book this kind of stuff is Dark Knight's Metal. Uh the DC event recently where at one point Batman is carrying around baby Darkseid to like ancient ruins on the moon or something with his God Vision goggles to like unlock the secrets of the dark multiverse, which in relation to the map of the multiverse is on the back of the page. And just like, okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, fine.
It's good stuff. So you mentioned arcs. Can you tell me a little bit about what those are?
It's questions like why is the fight? Where is the fight happen? Like it's a statement that says something like you are fighting the villain, and then there's a series of prompts depending on the suit of the cards you've got. As like a spade is like something about their powers has drawn you here. The club is you were here and they were here and you started fighting. And then diamonds are principles. Um, so it would be something like something they were doing demanded that you intervene. Hearts of people. So it's like here is somebody who was threatened, or maybe this other person got you involved somehow. And an arc is just a series of those prompts, one after the other. I believe there are 19 in the base game. I had a few more that I could have done, but I got bored of writing them, so I stopped. I figured 19 was enough. Uh, they range across a variety of fairly things that I've seen happen in comics a lot. Like there's a couple of basic ones, like adventure. The origin is one that you do to start with, and you only ever do it once. And there's adventure, which is like you're just doing superhero stuff, standard superhero things. And then it gets a bit more esoteric from there. There's one about transforming into something else, which is inspired by a dim memory I have of that Spider-Man cartoon, where he grew like two more sets of arms, and he was running around in his Spider-Man costume with just like four bare arms poking out the sides because he couldn't pretend to be Peter Parker anymore. Um,
That sounds plausible.
then there was, yeah, there's transformations, there's cosmic adventures, and there's now you have a nemesis, um, and this one's where you team up with one other hero. Here's a big crossover event you can play with all your friends and get everyone involved with. And I can't remember all of them. There's quite a lot. There's enough to be going on. There's like street level crime fighting if you want to be like Daredevil or somebody, or even Superman starting out. Um, yeah, and you just pick one that seems about right and answer the questions. It'll tell you. It'll tell you in the book. Draw. I think it's 4 cards. You have to use 2 of the ones you've drawn. Here are some prompts, assign the cards to the prompts. And in that way, like you have to use what you get, although you usually have some amount of choice. And also, yeah, like the story can take weird directions depending on what suits you pull and what's written on the cards when you pull them. So it becomes quite unpredictable after a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're playing with other people.
Yes, because then you'll be playing an arc, and then the questions will be answered by one of the cards from their deck. So it's like, who is the villain here? And they'll pull a card, and it'll be somebody you've never heard of, like some ridiculously overpowered person from cosmic space versus your little like street level martial artist. And you know, like, how are you going to do it? And yeah, it is a question, like, how are you going to fight this person? How is that going to work out exactly?
Oh
And there'll be
no,
some other cards that get pulled that will help you work that one out.
oh no, not Growlithrax, the venomous spider from the ninth millennium.
Yeah,
I hate
that
that
guy.
guy.
Didn't he die in some other series? Whatever.
No, he's back because we punched Hyper Time.
Yeah, exactly that.
I love horrible retcon events.
Yeah, I think I've got a whole sidebar about them in the book. I believe my ultimate conclusion is like, this is Cape Comics nonsense. Just roll with it. But yeah, that's kind of what the game is supposed to create. That kind of absurd collision of stuff, and then you build a story around it.
Yeah. So this crowdfunding campaign is currently just for a digital edition as a reward. Is that correct? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Um, yeah, it's meant for just a digital edition. I would like to make physical copies of the book. What I was thinking, my plan was GameFound has a campaign manager built in at at the back end. So if I got enough interest in physical books, I could print them and put them into the well, either I could put them into the campaign, the pledge manager, and then if people wanted them, they could order them, and then I'd know in how many I'd need for a print run, that kind of thing. But I can't make physical books right now because I don't have the interior art I want, so I don't know how big the book's going to be. So predicting like printing and shipping costs is not something I wanted to get into. So once I have the art for the interior and I can finalize that, I can make a printed version.
Right, because every all the writing is done at this point.
Yeah, the game is complete. Um, it's complete. It's playable. Like, if you really wanted to, you could go to my itch page and buy the PDF and play that. It's more expensive than buying the crowdfunded version, but there it is. If you want to play it immediately,
All right. I mean, that's tempting. It does sound like a lot of fun. Yeah. Are there any other elements you'd like to bring up while you're here?
um, I think I've covered it. Weirdly, it feels very brief, but I seem to have hit all the main points. Like, you can play it with other people. It's a lot of questions determined by the cards you pull from the deck. Oh, it comes with I wrote like an Excel spreadsheet that simulates a deck of cards if you don't fancy writing on an actual deck of cards. Because as I learned from other games you write on decks of cards, that can be quite tricky, especially with like the black face cards, because there's not much empty space on those you're writing on. I generally resorted to post-it notes for them.
Yeah, fair enough. And yeah, a deck of cards is like $5. It's not that bad actually, but it's $5.
Yeah, like if you don't want to do that, they've got a way you can do it without ruining a deck of cards. Although when Big Gay Nerds played it, they were very pleased by like the physical aspect of what you were left with when you played it, like the artifact to play afterwards.
Right.
I like that too. I like games that generate artifacts to play, especially when it's a deck of cards that people have written on.
Yeah, but both options are there.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, if you're still watching this at this point, please go back to the project. There is a link right below, and
Yes, please do.
yeah, indulge in some of the most bizarre excesses of the comic book industry.
Yep.
All right, and I think that's it for us. Have a good night.
All right. You too.